Yesterday, Kim and I, we were somewhere and we had just pulled into the garage. And when we pulled into the garage, we sat there for a moment talking about what's happened over the last 2 years of our life. And the reason why we were reviewing the last 2 years is because a lot of changes have happened, a lot of different changes. And where we were 2 years ago and where we are today, and we were talking about this, there's no way we would ever have been able to guess where we're at today. There's no way. But because of a series of events, it changed our life and changed our lifestyle and changed pretty much everything we do. Everything we do has been altered. And so it's really amazing to look back and see the defining moments that change us. And if you keep track of those, you keep them in a journal or on a document, on your computer, you can look back and you can see those and review those. And I was in awe of reviewing that yesterday. And I think the thing that was most profound about reviewing what's happened over the last 2 years is to be able to see that the impossible keeps happening. Things that both Kim, events that both Kim and I, my wife and I, were wondering, how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to adjust? How are we going to do things differently? And where we didn't know what to do, we recognized that we were able to figure it out in each one of those situations. So over the last 2 years, there's been multiple situations where it was time to adapt and adjust, that we didn't have an answer in the moment, but that the answers came and that we did figure it out. And I couldn't help, at the end of that conversation I was having with my wife yesterday, I couldn't help but stop and think about you and the adaptation that you're going through, and what you're adjusting and what you're altering in your life. And you're stepping into those realms of, how am I supposed to do this? Is this going to work out? I can't even see really how this is going to work out, and all those thoughts that play through in your mind, you go through those thoughts, and how many times have you gone through that in your life? It's like we always go through that doubt, and I think there's severe doubt, but then I think there's that flighty, just flicker of a doubt that's just like, how's this supposed to happen? But then we get into it, we figure it out. But then there's that severe doubt that like really stops a person. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, I bet if you look over your life and all those times that you thought something was impossible and you thought it wasn't going to work out, you thought you couldn't, find a way, you've been having some similar things happen to you too. And what's crazy is the reason that conversation happened yesterday is Kim and I are trying to figure out something right now in our life. We're trying to solve something. And it just seems like it's not happening. And so what I did is I took the conversation to a review over the last 2 years, that the same pondering and not having an answer, we've gone through that multiple times, a lot in the last 2 years. And so I reviewed that to remind both Kim and I that where we have been in a situation before where we didn't know what to do, we figured it out. We found the inspiration, we found the idea, we found the advice, we found the solution. And so what it did is it built our faith, it built our confidence to review the past of what we've been through. It's fascinating how the past can empower you. And also I could look in the past and I could look at all my failures, or my past could disempower me. It's all in how I look at my past. How am I reviewing my past? Am I dredging up all my mistakes and all my failures? And if I did, I could heap up the pile, the big pile of mistakes and failures. to the point that it would make sense not to move on. But I don't want to stop. I don't want to have, you know, those, major hesitations. I don't want that. So I've realized along the way how important it is how to use my past to move me forward. And everybody does it differently. I hold mentoring appointments. I hold live events. I talk to the people. I've been talking to the public, for 17 years, asking them questions, finding out what they think. And I've learned along the way that people use their past in a lot of different ways. Some are more reckless than others. Some no matter what their past is, they can pull the good from it, and be able to use it as a motivator. I've seen some people have really difficult pasts, but it motivates them to move forward. I mean, it's just off the charts, all the different ways that a person can use their past as momentum fuel or really shut down fuel. And as a mentor and as a coach and as a facilitator, I'm aware of that. I'm aware that none of us really know the future, but we do know our past. And it's very fascinating how the thing that we do know the most, the past, compared to knowing the future, that we don't get a grip on it. It's like we're all moving forward. We're all progressing. Here's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday, the next day is Wednesday. We all know that the days of the week are going to happen and the months are going to happen and then the years are going to happen. We all know we're moving forward. So wouldn't you want to use whatever you can to propel yourself forward? Wouldn't you? We all want progress. So wouldn't we want to use those things that are going to facilitate progress? That just makes sense, right? It makes sense that if we want to move forward, we're going to use whatever we can find, legally, morally, and ethically, use whatever we can to propel ourselves forward, to improve this or that, to improve and to create progress. Like, we like that. That's kind of the creatures we are. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating how people want things to be better, but they're not conscious of what they're using to create it. And one of the key components to moving forward is how you use your past. How do you use yesterday as momentum? How do you use last week as momentum? How do you do that? I think it's in how you review your life in a pessimistic way or an optimistic way, and how do you process hurt? How do you process defeat? How do you process failures? How do you process success? How do you process relationships? How do you process? So I think, for a person who's, looking at their past, it's how you process it. It's very fascinating. If you were to consider every human being you meet doesn't know how to process the past, the future, the present. They don't know how to assimilate it, not assimilate. They don't know how to process it, like understand what's going on and have it be a momentum. So I just want to lay that out to you here. It's just something that's very fascinating because we sat in the car for quite a while talking about the past. And because the conversation started out with an unknown. There was something we just didn't know what we should do next. We had some ideas, but we weren't sure which way to go. And then I said, you know what? Let's review the past for a moment. And as we reviewed the past, I felt my faith, my confidence, my hope, I felt it get clearer and stronger when we reviewed the last 2 years and all the miracles that have happened in our life. It motivated us to be able to see the miracles, see how we were able to move forward, and see the difficult situations that we were able to figure out. And yes, there was a bunch of failures along the way too, but we focused on the things that worked. That's the thing. There's things that work and there's things that don't work, and you can learn from both to motivate. So I just want you to know, as you are moving forward, you it's wise to keep track of what's going on